Hi folks! In this video I'm going to show you how I create these extra large tote bags. Keep watching! So we're going to go ahead and start creating this extra large tote bag. I wanted to show you the design space file though to explain a little bit what I've done. I've done my handles in one continuous piece, 27 inches long by 4 inches, but I've cut them by hand obviously because we can't cut 27 inches on the maker. So what I've done in the file, in case you prefer to cut them with your machine, is 4 pieces of 4 by 14. You can sew 2 together to make your length and then continue on as you would with one full length. I'm doing this bag in 2 colors. You'll notice also in the file that I've put the 2 inside pieces in red. That was to alert you because the 2 inside pieces for the body of the bag are actually 1 inch larger than the outside of the bag. You need that to get that trim at the top of the bag, and you'll see that as we work it. So those are, the pieces for the insert, I've added them to the file, but I would suggest that you just hide it when you go to cut. Don't cut them right away because depending how you sew your corners on the bag, your gussets, to make the square bottom, you want to measure first before you cut your mat board and your fabric to be sure that you have the exact length. You might need to increase it or decrease the size of the fabric a little bit and the mat board a little bit. So I would suggest waiting, don't cut that right away. So let's go forward now. So what you're going to have is your handles, obviously. You're going to have 4 pieces for the bottom of the bag, 2 in one color, 2 in another color. There we go. So these are the pieces for the bottom of the bag. I've cut them 10 by 21 to put on the maker to cut the shape, to cut the pattern. And you have 4 pieces that are 12 by 21 for the body of the bag. You'll put them that size onto the mat to cut them on the maker. I've used a heavy, this time I used a medium fusible interfacing just because I ran out of the heavy, so I'll have to make a trip in town to get more heavy interfacing at my fabric store, but it's not close by and I wanted to get this video done. So we'll go ahead and start sewing. The first thing we're going to start with is the handles. Get them ready and put them aside and we'll move on from there. So I'm going to get the pieces cut out and I'll be back to show them to you. Okay, so now we've got everything cut out and I'll show you where I'm going with this now. So these pieces that I've cut 4 inches by 27, or if you've done 2 at 14 and attached together, what you want to do is press them in half. Then press one side to the middle, the other side to the middle, and fold in half again and give them a nice press. And we're going to go ahead and sew just down each side to keep them together. No need to sew across the ends because they're going to be tucked into the lining, and you'll probably end up trimming them to reduce bulk anyway, so you don't need to do anything with the ends. Just down both sides. I'll sew them and show you what I do. All the pieces have the seam allowance drawn. I love the CRICUT washable pens, fabric pens. I hoard them. So I don't order one, I ordered 5. I'm going to put all my links under the video in the description anyway, so if you want to get the pens or just the Design Space file, whatever you need will be in the description of the video. So I'm going to separate my pieces so that I don't get confused as I'm sewing. I don't want to be sewing the wrong thing. I should mention to you, if you're using a pattern, you want to make sure you put it very straight on your mat, because you don't want your pattern to end up like this when it should be like that. Also, don't forget that you're cutting sideways. So if your pattern is up facing, if you need it to point in a certain direction, you want to make sure the direction of the fabric is right. This is the bottom, this is the top. And it cuts like that on your maker. These are gussets cut out to do our square bottom. If you've never seen them before, you'll see them in the video. So I'm doing mine with the stripes on the bottom outside. I'm going to put those pieces separate. The inside will have a red bottom, so we'll put those aside. Put those aside. The outside will have a red body. Put them here. And the inside, oh, I should mention again, it's really important that you choose the right fabric at the right time. So when you see that red cut layer on your screen, you want to make sure that you're cutting the body of the inside of the bag. Because, as you can see, when you put the two pieces together, it's a good inch longer, and that is because when it's sewn together, that will become the trim at the top of your bag, and it'll be all in one piece, so you won't have to add any extra pieces to the top. So if you make a mistake and cut the outside longer, the inside won't fit properly, so you definitely want to be aware that the inside body of the bag is the red one in the cut file. So that's my outside, and this is my inside. There we go. We'll put that here. This is my outside. Stay nice and organized so we don't mix things up. The first thing that I'm going to do is prepare my straps, and I'll be back to show you how they turn out and what I do next. So I'm going to get my sewing machine ready, and off we go. Okay, so I've got both straps sewn, ready. They're just going to go on the side for now. I'm going to trim up all my extra thread. You want to keep it nice and neat so you don't accidentally sew thread into your project. We'll just trim those up, get all the excess thread out of the way. There we go. Clean that all up. So the next step is that you want to sew the bottom of the bag to the top of the bag. So I'm going to take an outside bottom and I'm going to take an outside top. You want to put them good sides together. Line them up nice and straight. Especially in my case, working with stripes, I want to make sure that I get everything nice and straight. We don't want wonky stripes. So you're going to line them up nice and straight. You can use straight pins or clips, whatever you prefer. I really like these Wonder clips. I got them on Amazon. They're terrific. No stabbing yourself with straight pins. There we go. So all we're going to do right now is sew straight across. Don't sew down any sides or anything. You just want to join these two pieces together to make the outside of your bag. So I'm going to do that now. Put my handles on the side. And I'm just going to sew straight across. Going to start by doing a back stitch and then continue forward. Keep checking to make sure your layers are lining up properly. And finish with a back stitch. I go back about an inch to make sure. There we go. And I'll just push it out of the way. Take off my extra clip. And you can see, now this is all one piece. My stripes are nice and straight. Grateful for that. So you're going to go ahead and do the same with the rest of your bag. Don't forget that the inside layer is bigger than the outside layer, so you don't want to mistake which one is which. At this point, I don't think it really matters because you're interchanging the colors anyway, so you know which color you want on the inside body of the bag, so it should be simple enough. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to attach all those together to make 4 pieces instead of 8. I'll go to my ironing surface and press my seams nice and clean. We want nice clean seams to work with so you get a nice finish. And we'll come back and go to the next step. See you soon. Okay, so I'm back and we're going to move on to the next step. Here we go. So this is the outside of my bag. I'm doing the outside red. So I wanted to show you what I do when I press. On the outside pieces, I press my seam flat towards the bottom. And on the inside piece, I press my seam towards the top so that when I line them up, I have less bulk. I can line up seam to seam and I have less bulk. Instead of having them piled on top of each other, they're spread out a little. So the outside press towards the bottom, the inside press towards the top. You might know of a different way to do this already, but this is how I do it, so I thought I'd show you. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is take our outside layers. You can put the inside layers aside for now. You don't need them right away. We'll put that aside. And we're going to prepare to put on our handles. These are all pressed and ready to go. That's why I do them in the beginning. So what I'm going to do is take a ruler, and on this width I found that The nicest area to put them is approximately 5 inches from the ends. But you can put them any way you like. You can put them closer together or spread them out more. That's completely up to you. So I'm going to take this and line it up on the edge of my ruler. I'm going to take a pin and pin it in place. You don't want to pin too close to the edge because you're going to sew. There we go, 5 inches in. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to go 5 inches in. Make sure this is lined up properly. You don't want it to be twisted when you sew it in place. So I'll make sure this is correct. There we go. Go 5 inches in and line this up just there. And we'll place another pin, and of course not too close to the edge. So what you can do is you can sew over these handles now just to keep them in place while you attach your inside layer, or you can just wait until you attach your inside layer. But I like to really reinforce the handles, so I'm going to sew them in place right away so I can get the pins out of the way. Just a quick sew back and forth on top of this. And you want to go close to the edge because you don't want any seams exposed when you put the bag together. So I'm going to sew across, back, across again, and back. And now I know my handle isn't coming off. So we're just going to do that. And I'll do the same thing for the second one. Take that pin away so I don't stab myself. And I'll go again. Across, backwards, and across again. That's all it needs to keep it in place, because you're also going to be sewing the inside layer on top of that, which will catch the handles. And you'll do a finish sew top stitch at the end, so the handles will be well installed. So there's your handle. You don't want to worry about that. We're going to trim away any of the excess thread we have here so we don't accidentally sew it into our project. So that's one. And an easy way to do the second one is just to lay it on top. Oh, for a second there I thought I put my handle in sideways. So the easiest way is just to lay it on top. Take your second handle and line them up with the first one. Just mirror image them. There we go. Want to make sure this is going in straight. Okay, so I'm going to reinforce my handle. I'm going to sew it in, and I'll be back to show you the next step. Okay, so by now you've got your handles installed on the outside of your bag, and we're moving on to the inside. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to attempt to install a zipper on mine, so I'm going to do mine a little differently from how you'll be doing yours. I'm not going to do an instruction video on this yet because it's the first time I attempt it. I don't want to tell you the wrong way to do it. So I'm just going to do that off camera. So what you want to do now that you've got your handles installed, you want to lay your fabric good side up, tuck your handles out of the way. You can even pin them if you want to make sure that they don't get caught in your sewing. And you want to line this up. Good side down, your lining piece, right along the edge. Make sure your handles are straight, that you're sewing them in straight. They're not on an angle. Make sure they're nice and straight. Pin or clip that so they stay in place while you sew. And on both pieces, you're going to be attaching the inside to the outside. So you just want to sew straight across at this point. You don't want to sew anything else, just straight across. And go and get that done, and I'll be back. So I just wanted to show you how this zipper looks installed on the lining. Looks all right to me. I hope it turns out okay. But this is the first time I do it, so that's exactly why I'm not showing you how I've done it in this video. And I will make a smaller bag with a zipper installation. Now I'm going to go ahead and catch up with you and install my goods to my outside panels to my inside panels. And I'll be right back. Mine looks a little different than yours, but that's okay. You want to connect your back pieces to your front pieces, so you want to lay it out good sides together, line everything up really nice and straight. You want to make sure that your seams, because you're using two colors, you want to make sure that they line up really nice. You don't want to see crooked colors on the side of the bag, so try to get them as nice as you can. I'm going to clip it there so it doesn't move. I'm going to clip it here so it doesn't move. It looks like it's lining up nice on this side too. There we go. Put a couple of pins here. Clips I'm using. I say pins. Same thing. Okay, so you want to make sure all your extra stuff, your handles and everything are tucked into the middle so you don't accidentally sew them together. Line up your seam again on the side. Make sure your colors line up nice on the sides. Do it on this side too, get everything nice and lined up. One of the most important things is getting your seams nice if you want to have a professional look to your bag. Put that one up that way. Okay, everything seems to be good. These are lining up nice and straight at the bottom too. It's a big piece of fabric to work with, but the result is really nice. It's fun to have a really big tote bag. Get those lined up. That's nice. Make sure everything's straight here. Okay, so what you want to do is sew across the top. Make sure you double stitch at the ends. Sew all the way down the sides. And then at the bottom you want to sew only part way in. You want to leave an opening big enough to turn this bag inside out. So that's all you're going to do now. Across the end, down the sides, and partially across one end. I hope you can see that. You want to stop part ways, so you need an opening to turn the whole thing right side out. So we'll go ahead and do that. Make sure you're not sewing in anything that you don't want to, like handles. Watch you don't catch them in your seams. Try to make sure everything stays lined up. That seems okay. And off we go. I'll be back. Okay, so now we have our bag attached together inside to outside. We have the seam done across the bottom. We've done the sides. And at this end, I've only done partially in so that I'll be able to open it up, reach inside, and pull everything through. But before we do that, we need to address the corners. So we want to have a square bottom. So if you've seen any of my other tote bags, you already know how to do this. So we're just going to put seams together. It's a little more difficult on this size, but you can do it. We get our seams together on the bottom. Get your seams together, get everything straightened out, and put a pin through it. And you want to sew, make sure that you catch the corners. So you want to make sure you sew really well right across, back stitch, and catch those corners. And you're going to do the same thing on all four corners, but I'll be back to show you how one looks. Okay, so you can see how I've sewn this one. I'm going to trim away my excess fabric and my leftover threads, clean that up, and I'm going to do the same on all four corners before I turn the bag inside out, or right side out. Be right back. Now we've got all our four corners done nice and square. So we're going to turn our bag right side out. We're going to use the bottom opening that you want to make sure you leave open the end that has that is the lining. We're going to turn everything inside out, or right side out, I should say. Square all your corners, get all your corners, make everything nice and neat. That's the outside of my bag. It's going to need some pressing. We want to square these corners also from the lining so you get everything straight. And then you just want to, this should fold in quite easily. So you just want to line that up and top stitch that all the way along so that it's closed all nice and clean looking when you push it into the bag. I'll just clip that in place to make sure I get it nice and straight. Some people say just stitch the opening. Others mention, like a seamstress that I've met online mentioned to me that you really should go right across when you're closing the bag that way. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to go straight across. Keep everything straight. This will just take a second. Threads. I'll just trim these to make sure they're nice and neat. It's hard to pick up this thread when you have nails. There we go. And now we're going to push this into the bag. It's all closed up on the bottom. and we'll push it in. Now you're going to see why we cut the inside an inch longer on the body of the bag. You'll be able to see why we did that. Okay, mine is a little different because I did install a zipper on it. Oh, that's cute. I'm surprised it worked out. It's not perfect, but it's my first zipper on a bag like this, so we'll see how that goes. Okay, get that out of the way. Okay, so you want to make sure your corners are pushed in nice and neat. Everything is nice and neat. And you see that you have the top is longer. So that gives you a nice trim to match the bottom of your bag. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my iron. I'm going to press this all down. Then we're going to come back, raise our handles up, and just do one nice row of sewing along here just to make sure that the handles are reinforced and stay nicely in place. And we'll be done. I'll be back. Okay, so I've done all my pressing, and you can see my zipper. It's not perfect. I was off here first one though, so it's not too bad. I'm planning to keep this bag for myself anyway, so I thought it would be fun to have a zipper closure on it. Fun little shopping bag or traveling bag, whatever. So now I've pressed the inside lining flat, and that was the reason for doing it an inch longer. We have a nice trim up at the top. I'm just going to make sure my straps are lined up really nice and straight here. In fact, I think I'll put a pin in them to make sure they don't move while I'm sewing. Because now we're going to do all the way around the edge. My machine has a free arm. I imagine yours probably does too. There we go. Make sure that's straight. Where did I put my pins? Oh, right beside me. Of course. We're going to pin that in here. And this is going to keep the handles nice. And it's also going to reinforce the handles. So if you put weight in your bag, which I tend to do, make sure that's all lined up nice. Everything's matchy-matchy. We'll put that along here. And that here. Keep it in place. And I'm going to start on the side. Oh, I wanted to show you how important it was. This is not too bad. Lining up the pattern with on the sides turned out pretty good. I'm going to try to press this all once I finish it all. But it's so important to line up your patterns with your solid colors or your two solid colors, whatever it is. You want them to line up as much as possible. Okay, so I'm going to start sewing this around the top. I'm going to open the zipper on my bag so I can get into it, and I will start. Go around here. Oops, I need to get that in there. There we go. Ouch. There we go, that should do it. I'm going to sew all the way around, and this is the top stitch, so I'm set at 6, the longest stitch, and I want to go slowly to make sure that it turns out nice and neat because it's visible. So here we go. I'm going especially slow over the handle to make sure that we don't do any damage with the bulk. It's noisy when it goes over bulk. There we go, we're almost done. That's out of the way. And we finish where we started. There we go. Okay, so that's done. I'm going to trim off the thread. Let me move my sewing machine out of the way so we have more space. It's a big project, but it's not hard to do. It's fun. And yes, you can go out and buy a tote bag, but it really is fun to have something that you made yourself. We can applique it. I have to decide what I want to put on it. Once I decide what I'm going to use it for, I'll applique something on it. There we have it. Oops, there's a straight pin. Like I want to stab myself again. Our handles are installed. There we go. All nice and neat. Mine has a zipper closure. I will do a smaller bag to show you how I did the zipper, how I installed the zipper, because I think it's fun to have a zipper. I will do a smaller bag and show you how I did that. And that's it. I hope you'll make some tote bags. I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you make some, please post pictures or do a video or something. Let me see what you do with it. I'd love to see it. I'll post the link for the file under the video in the description. I'll also post a link for those fabric pens that I love so much with my discount code. So there you go. Thank you for watching.